Hello, Alabama. What do the computer models indicate about the Alabama Crimson Tide versus Georgia game? I honestly believe Alabama will win, but I think these predictions might be complete nonsense. But let's analyze. But first, subscribe to the channel and keep receiving more news from Bama. In the climate of expectations surrounding the SEC championship game, the debate about what computer models project for Alabama and Georgia has gained momentum among fans, analysts, and commentators. And, as always happens when two such closely matched powerhouses meet, the digital predictions have given a clear message. Nobody really knows what will happen. Even so, the data helps to understand the statistical picture of a matchup that promises to be decided by details. Over the past few weeks, 6 different models have analyzed the team's performance, producing readings that, in general, point to an extremely balanced duel. 3 of them favor Georgia, with the highest probability reaching 54%, while 2 others give Alabama a minimal advantage, with peaks of 53% chance of victory. Such a narrow difference, in practice, reflects what is seen on the field. 2 powerful, well-trained, talented teams capable of manipulating the pace of a decisive game. Massey's projection, for example, indicates a 28-26 victory for Alabama, giving the Crimson Tide a 53% margin. ESPN's analysis follows the same line, giving Alabama a 51.1% chance. Bill Connolly's SP Plus favors Georgia 27-24, with 53% in favor of the Bulldogs. Jeff Sagarin's model is even more precise, predicting 25.36 to 24.72 for Georgia, a microscopic difference that reinforces the idea of a matchup decided by a single play. FEI projects Georgia to win 27-26, with a 53.4% probability, while College Football Nerds predicts a 30-26 score for Georgia, highlighting the Bulldogs' statistical superiority in the running game. These numbers tell a story. There is no clear favorite. And that's not empty talk, it's mathematics. When models project margins of 1 or 2 points, a single unexpected fumble, a gust of wind deflecting a long kick, or a pass that deflects off a defender's hand can completely alter the equation. That's why analysts often treat these kinds of predictions as parameters, not certainties. However, there's one point that statistics don't capture: the weight of momentum. Alabama enters the game with a record of 10 wins and only 2 losses, holding a 7-1 record within the SEC, and with the team playing its best football in the final stretch of the season. Kalen DeBoer quickly transformed the Crimson Tide, imposing a modern, efficient, and consistent identity, giving fans exactly what Alabama has always had in abundance: confidence in big games. And this is where a more human interpretation of the game comes in. Models may suggest a slight favoritism for Georgia in some metrics, but the field is a different story. Alabama has risen to the occasion at the right moments, corrected mistakes early in the season, and shown adaptability that is crucial in matchups of this magnitude. No algorithm can fully comprehend the emotional intensity of a team that knows how to play in finals, that has been on that stage dozens of times, and that has always understood that a title in the SEC is an obligation. Therefore, although mathematical projections point to a close game, there is no reason for Crimson Tide fans to see these numbers as a death sentence. On the contrary, they only confirm what those who follow Alabama already know. The team is alive, is at the highest level of competition, and has a clear chance of winning. What matters is the field. And on the field, Alabama always performs when it matters most. The models may divide opinions, but the fans' confidence remains intact. And with DeBoer's work, with what this team has shown throughout the year, with the maturity and talent that the Crimson Tide possesses, It's no exaggeration to say that Alabama has everything it takes to prevail once again on the stage where it has become accustomed to making history. The matchup against the Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC Championship Final is a unique event. It's impossible to discuss this confrontation without acknowledging the adversities faced by both sides, but also without highlighting how, even amidst adversity, competitive spirit and strategic intelligence can shape the outcome of a game. Alabama enters the game with a series of deeply felt absences in its roster. Josh Cuevas and Jam Miller, two important pillars of the offense, are out of action, while Parker Brailsford and Jeremy Bernard struggle to fully recover from their physical conditions. Kevin Riley, a key piece among the running backs, is also out. Still, there's something peculiarly inspiring in how Alabama has dealt with these limitations. Kalen DeBoer, the experienced leader of this group, has demonstrated a remarkable ability to adapt his strategy to get the most out of his available players. And this ability could be the difference maker at this critical moment. On the other hand, the injury to Drew Bobo, the Bulldogs starting center, emerges as a crucial point in this narrative. Bobo, whose presence on offense is undeniably vital, suffered a broken foot during the game against Georgia Tech, an irreparable loss for Kirby Smart and his team. The numbers don't lie. Before Bobo's departure, the Bulldogs' running game was an overwhelming force. Nate Frazier was close to reaching 100 yards in the first half alone, and everything seemed to flow with almost mechanical precision. But when Bobo left the field, the engine of that offense began to fail. Malachi Tolliver tried to fill the void, but the impact was evident. The initial dominance evaporated, and what remained was a hesitant and vulnerable offensive unit. Cortez Smith or another less experienced option could take over on Saturday, but it will be difficult to replicate the level of confidence and efficiency that Bobo brought to the group. This is where the irony of this SEC championship game lies. Despite Alabama boasting a longer list of casualties, the specific loss of Bobo may weigh more than any other individual absence. College football, after all, is a sport of adjustments and adaptations, and when it comes to a game as balanced as this, small details can make all the difference. Without a solid center to anchor the offense, the Bulldogs face the real risk of seeing their running game, until now their main weapon, compromised against an Alabama defense that proudly occupies the 10th position in Brian Fremeau's defensive efficiency ranking. And it's impossible not to mention the Alabama defense in this context. While the Bulldogs' defensive line struggled against Georgia Tech, a team that, it's worth remembering, has the 94th best defense in the same ranking, the Crimson Tide has been relentless throughout the season. This defensive superiority becomes even more relevant when considering the current scenario, a Georgia offense that may find it difficult to establish rhythm without its maestro at center. Kalen DeBoer certainly understands this, and it wouldn't be surprising if his strategy revolved around exploiting this weakness, continuously pressuring an already fragile offensive line. But what truly fascinates about this matchup isn't just the absences or the cold statistics. It's the way each team carries its stories, its struggles, and its hopes onto the field. Alabama, even depleted, exudes an aura of confidence that transcends the circumstances. There's something intrinsic to the culture of this program, something that dates back to the glory days under Saban and continues to live on today. The belief that regardless of adversity, there's always a path to victory. It's this mentality that allows little-known players to shine when called upon and coaches to reinvent their approaches to overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. Georgia, however talented, carries the weight of enormous expectations. The Bulldogs arrived at this point as favorites, but Bobo's absence introduces an uncertainty that could undermine the confidence of a team accustomed to dominating its opponents. The question that hangs in the air is, will the Bulldogs be able to overcome this adversity as resiliently as Alabama has demonstrated? What we'll have on Saturday will be more than just a football game. It will be a meeting of identities, strategies, and intertwined histories. For Alabama, it's an opportunity to prove, once again, that a team's strength lies not only in the names on the roster, but in the collective spirit and intelligence with which challenges are faced. Let's go. Around all the discussions about the future of the Alabama Crimson Tide in the college football playoff, there's a mix of certainties and uncertainties. Certainties because, on the field, what Kalen DeBoer and his team have done so far already deserves recognition. Uncertainties because, as we well know, college football, especially when it comes to CFP, is rarely just about what happens on the field. Kalen DeBoer didn't hide his perplexity at the possibility of Alabama missing the playoffs, even after everything the team has achieved this season. 10 wins, 7 of them in the brutal SEC, including victories against ranked teams and challenging away games. The 27-20 win against Auburn at Jordan-Hare Stadium was another chapter in this resilient campaign, which secured the Tide a spot in the SEC championship against the Georgia Bulldogs. That would leave me perplexed, DeBoer said about the possibility of missing out. And he's right. But here we are, in a system where the CFP committee seems to have criteria as fluid as the Tide. Until a few weeks ago, nobody could have imagined that rushing yards would be such a central point in the evaluations. Hunter Yurachek, Arkansas's athletic director and CFP president, brought this metric to the forefront, and now everyone is trying to interpret what it really means. Will the 158 rushing yards gained by Alabama in the Iron Bowl be enough to impress these evaluators? Or will other variables, perhaps unknown even to the committee members themselves, end up weighing more heavily? The truth is that, for Alabama, any discussion about their playoff fate must begin and end with a single word: victory. Winning against Georgia next week eliminates any and all doubt. A triumph at Mercedes-Benz Stadium not only guarantees automatic qualification for the CFP, but also reinforces the narrative that this team, even depleted and facing adversity, belongs among the best in the country. More than that, a victory could even guarantee the Tide a bye in the first round, depending on how the other matchups unfold. Losing to Georgia, on the other hand, is entering dangerous waters. Alabama would be handing its fate over to 12 people sitting in a room whose decisions often seem to be guided more by intuition than logic. Last year, the committee kept SMU in Alabama's place, even after the Mustangs lost to Clemson in the ACC championship. But who can guarantee they will do the same this year? Precedents are just that, precedents. They offer no real security. The scariest scenario for Alabama would be losing to Georgia and then watching BYU surprise Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship. If that happens, the conference will likely put 2 teams in the CFP, and the remaining space for the Tide will become even tighter. In a system where every detail matters, Alabama simply cannot afford to rely on outside favors or interpretations. All of this reinforces how crucial next Saturday will be. For Alabama, it's not just about playing against Georgia. It's about unequivocally proving that this team deserves to be among the top 4 in the country. It's about showing that, even with injuries and significant absences, the competitive spirit and adaptability remain intact. It's an opportunity for Kalen DeBoer to prove that his strategic vision can overcome any obstacle, and for the players to demonstrate that the Tide's legacy goes beyond individual names. There's something profoundly human in this whole situation. It's impossible not to empathize with DeBoer's position, who led his team with resilience and intelligence, but now needs to rely on a process that often seems arbitrary. It's impossible not to admire the determination of this group of players, who continued fighting even when the path became more difficult. And it's impossible not to question a system that allows so much uncertainty to persist until the very last moment. Alabama controls its destiny. A victory against Georgia resolves everything. It secures the spot, silences the critics, and reaffirms the Tide's place among the giants of college football. But above all, it sends a clear message. Alabama doesn't need favors. It makes its own history. What's your opinion? Comment.